I don't know how long you want to get into this. Is sort of long. Somebody sent me this, and this was Crystal Ball referring to what she perceives as a hypocritical war on the Green Party by the Democrats when it comes to the ballot. And I was a little reluctant, but I just think that, like, look, this, and maybe this is, getting a little hair splitty, but the fact of the matter is the Green Party, there are just some misstatements here, and there is some misattributions. And, like, look, I'm not standing for the Democratic Party here. Although, like, we just talked about, will the Democrats stand up to, chicanery because they want to win this election? And we're worried that they won't, because a lot of times they're weak. They're weak, even from an ideological perspective. Putting that aside, they're just bad partisans more often than not. And in multiple instances around the country, the Green Party, either because they're just inept or because they don't care, I don't know, they have messed up their essentially the rules to get on a ballot. These are not complicated things. You need to get a certain amount of signatures. You need to have you need to make sure that these signatures are real. How you present yourself needs to be real. In the context of Wisconsin, they did not. The vice presidential candidate had changed her address. They were given 2 opportunities to fix it. You can sign an affidavit that the address thing changed in the middle, and that would have done it, and they did not do it. Now, they either didn't do it because they wanted to have a court case, or they did not do it because they're just incredibly incompetent.
Hang on, Sam. I thought the case was they had signed the forms with 2 different addresses for that.
They had signed the form for 2 different addresses. However, in Wisconsin, all they had to do was sign an affidavit saying it was an honest mistake, and they were given the opportunity to sign that affidavit, and they didn't do it. Now, it's either they didn't do it because they're completely incompetent, or they didn't do it because they wanted to make a splash about it.
I don't think they wanted to make a splash about it.
Then they're completely incompetent.
Well, no, the Green Party is full of idiots. I had no idea.
This is just the reality. I mean, this is every single person in, if you read into this, that is what happened. There was 2 ways they could have fixed that. Yeah. They were given ample opportunity to do so. They did not do it. And they sued in the state Supreme Court. Apparently they Googled and just happened to find, the law firm that represents Republicans. And they lost in the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin. This is a conservative state court, incidentally. They're supposedly nonpartisan, but they're very closely aligned to Republicans. If the Republicans really wanted them on the ballot, which they did.
Republican majority on their court.
Yes, without a doubt. In Pennsylvania, there was a similar situation where they screwed up. And the Democrats sued them because of their screw up on their signatures. And the state court in Pennsylvania found that it wasn't, their signatures weren't valid. There is a long history in Pennsylvania, going back at least until the aughts that I'm aware of Republican funders providing funds for Green Party candidates. I mean, big funds. Big funds, like Santorum's operation was funding Greens in Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, what subsequently happened is Supreme Court, because they didn't send out the ballots in time in Pennsylvania, they extended 3 days because Democrats sued in a separate case to extend the deadline when they count. But here is, with all of that as the reality, listen to the way that Crystal Ball on, what is this show?
AM Rising
characterizes this.
is aggressively fighting to get the Green Party kicked off the ballot in numerous swing states and actively damaging the mail-in voting process in at least one key state. Let me explain what's going on. So, you know the backstory here. In 2016, you might recall that Hillary Clinton lost the presidency. She, in the Democratic establishment, never wanted to accept any blame for the
go for it. I mean, we know this story.
I'm so bored already.
I like this music, though.
Montana obviously is not critical for the presidential race, but is key to Democrats trying to win the Senate majority. And it's really wild how they actually pulled this off. So the Green Party did everything right, and they got the sufficient number of signatures to be on the ballot. But the Democratic Party actually went and contacted voters who had signed the Green Party petitions and bullied them into recanting their signatures, effectively disenfranchising those voters who had already voted for the Green Party candidates in the state's primary. In Texas, national and state Democrats are suing.
I got to be honest with you. I don't know the story about the bullying that they did to these signers. I'm not sure what that means, but okay, that's possible that in Montana that is the case. But continue.
Candidates off the ballot there as well. At issue in Texas is a new and possibly unconstitutional law requiring third-party candidates to pay up to a $5,000 filing fee. That law is new and is currently being litigated in the courts. The candidates in question have been upfront that they don't intend to pay those filing fees while this matter is being litigated and being resolved. One of the candidates involved told Salon, quote, "I'm dismayed that while Democrats are complaining about the Republicans and Donald Trump are trying to suppress the vote, they're doing exactly the same. But the most egregious efforts are..."
Pause it for 1 second. The Democrats passed that law in Texas?
That's not possible.
That's not possible. But continue.
Most egregious efforts are happening in a couple of key presidential battleground states. So in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court just ruled at the 11th hour that the Green Party should be tossed from the ticket over a minor technicality. So what happened here is Green Party vice presidential candidate Angela Walker moved in the middle of the petitioning process, meaning that for a portion of the signature gathering period, the address on the ballot petitions reflected her previous address rather than her new address. The deadline to send out mail-in ballots, according to that state's law, is this Thursday. So thanks to the Democrats, Wisconsin voters will have one fewer choice this November.
Now, pause it. I'm sorry. Okay, there was this discrepancy. They were given the opportunity to fix it with an affidavit. They didn't do it. People should read into that a little bit. And the Democrats, there's no doubt in my mind, they capitalized on that. But this is a Republican-controlled court that ruled that. That's just the reality.
Well, I'm sure that there's some truth to these matters and that they screwed up. I don't know. They got high or something and forgot to do it. Whatever. I mean, you're kind of nagging them a little bit, Sam. This is a lot like, you had 3 days to do the dishes. They're not soaking in there. I don't know, there's flies.
That's right.
I hear this a lot, Sam, and it's
true.
Hairs on the back of my head are.
But here is the last one. We're talking about Pennsylvania. Okay. Understand, 2 separate cases that are going on in Pennsylvania. One was about the Green Party on the ballot. The other was the Democrats pursuing an extra 3 days on a separate case. Continue.
Outrageous example of all is in Pennsylvania. Hillary Clinton lost that state last time by around 44,000 votes. As Democrats will tell you in anguish, Jill Stein garnered 49,000 votes, more than Trump's margin. What they are less likely to tell you is that Gary Johnson vastly outperformed Stein on the ballot, earning nearly triple her numbers and triple, of course, then Trump's margin. So, in Pennsylvania, Democrats have gone so far as to allow their court challenges and aggressive war on the Green Party to delay the beginning of mail-in balloting in that absolutely critical state. So this is according to CNN. Here's what they have to say. The state's Democratic Party remains in court, battling to keep the Green Party off the ballot. The pending legal dispute has led to a delay in certification of the November ballot, and as a result, all Pennsylvania county election officials who this year could have started offering absentee or mail-in ballots, as well as in-person early absentee voting starting September 14th, are now in a holding pattern. So let me get this straight. The people who have been...
All right, so that's it. That's it. Okay, and then she goes on to say that Democrats are doing it. But when the Greens did it in Wisconsin because of their screw-up, it's the Democrats' fault. When the Democrats do it in Pennsylvania, it's the Democrats' fault. She does not mention that the Democrats are also pursuing a 3-day extension granted by the state Supreme Court today. So there is a 3-day extension, which will actually help probably more than it will go beyond. The net will be positive. And it's just like, look, I get it. The Democratic Party is highly problematic, but to use the Green Party, which has been so inept, and particularly in Pennsylvania, funded by the Republicans, and expect that if the Democrats weren't doing anything, I'd be sitting on this program going like, these people are incompetent. The Democrats should be challenging this. This is BS. And that's basically it.
Well, Sam, I'm not a member of the Green Party. I've never really supported the Green Party, but I can't really celebrate these things. I mean, look, again, I'm sure there's some truth to the matter that there is some incompetence and they didn't tick some boxes and they screwed up or something. But hang on, at the end of the day, well, first off, they got the signatures, right? And frankly, you want to talk about that Wisconsin decision. These are all partisan decisions. Republicans have a 5-4 majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And 4 of the Republicans voted to put the Green Party on the ballot. 4 of the Democrats voted to toss the Green Party from the ballot. That is not, okay. That is not a matter
scientific,
of,
right? This is
right. That is not a matter of objective
blind justice,
facts.
Right? No, I get
it. And and often, generally speaking, judges, they don't like wading into this kind of crap, and yet often when they do. Of course, the major parties are privileged. You remember, I'm sure, the 2002 New Jersey Senate race where Torricelli was the Democratic incumbent, and he went to prison, something like that. And they could not, by law, replace him from the ballot. They could not replace him with a new candidate. So they appealed to the New Jersey Supreme Court, and they said, "Nah, screw it. Put someone else up. Put Corzine on." I think it was John Corzine. So of course, it's not about the law. Frankly, it's about who gets a preferential treatment. And this is honestly at a time when we are talking about threats to the legitimacy of our electoral system. This is not something to be celebrated.
I'm not celebrating the fact that they're not on the ballot. I don't care. I don't think they're going to get those amount of votes. What I am talking about, though, is the way that it's being characterized. You're right. It is a Republican court in Wisconsin. That was not a Democratic partisan decision, right? Like the court was offended by the fact that these guys were given so much opportunity to do this that it was too blatant.
Well, it was one guy. It was one Republican who joined all 4 Democrats.
Of course.
Yeah, and they've clearly never had sativa before.
Right. And
acid whippets or any number of things that the Green Party knows about that Republicans don't.
But it's really just about the way that this is characterized, as if like the Democrats, what they're doing is somehow sort of uniquely evil, or the fact is that this is a story of utter green incompetence. They took that's really the issue for me. It's just sort of like,
okay, sure.
to the extent that I am biased, it is right on my,
I agree with you. The Green Party and, the third parties tend to be used for rat fucking basically by the 2 major parties. And I don't read an ideological thing into this. I would agree with you on that. Because of course, Democrats are doing what, frankly, if they want to win, that they should be doing, if that's your only objective. I'm just saying this is really a tread lightly type situation, because it's not good to have these sorts of precedents, especially when Republicans have so much power down ballot in these states, thanks to things like gerrymandering, thanks to things like the gargantuan sums that Republicans have been spending to take things like state Supreme Court races, the judicial races over the past few decades. It's not a good precedent.
But it is the inevitability of like these are they are politicians who are sitting on these courts.
Is it really? But I do have to ask. You're the Democrats. I do have to ask. Is it really that smart to is to make this case right now, knowing that just for this election, knowing that it could bite us in the ass later, when I could weigh that against, say, making an earnest attempt to appeal to Green Party voters. This
happens every election.
But to make an earnest attempt to appeal to Green Party voters, maybe that is the path of least resistance, and maybe that is the path that is not going to bite us in the ass down the line.
But listen, everybody said in 2016, these Green Party voters were not going to vote for Democrats anyways, right? And that may be the case or not. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the breakdown is. I'm sure there were some that would have voted for the Democrat in the absence of the Greens. I'm sure that, but I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know if they're sufficient. The point I'm making is less about whether they should be on the ballot. If a Republican court in Wisconsin says they shouldn't be on the ballot, and it's in the best interest of these highly partisan judges to push it to the extent that they can, I take that. In Pennsylvania, it's a left-leaning court. At least the Democrats pursued an extension to allow for more voting in that respect. But my point is the characterization is an extension of the Green Party being used to do that type of rat fuck. And that is what I take issue with. And it not being characterized as that way. Like the righteousness involved in this, basically what we all know is a rat fuck, at least part of it is financed by the Republicans. It is just a partisan battle. If you want to decry there's too much partisanship and et cetera, and these state Supreme Court are corrupted in some way, agreed. But there is no precedent. The precedent is a function of who sits on these courts at this point, right? Because they're going to come to the conclusion that they're going to come to. And so that's what I'm taking issue with, is really just sort of this characterization that somehow what the Democrats are doing is extra specially problematic in this instance.
We have been talking about, the legitimacy of the electoral system, about these very real threats to democracy and the rule of law. And frankly, it's not hard to imagine down the line. And, of course, I do agree with you. It depends on who sits on the court, but there's also an emboldening happening where, maybe the next group of Republicans who sit on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, or they take power there, maybe they are more willing to play hardball and say, this Democrat Senate candidate he didn't sign this line. He wrote okay in the box that says do not write in this box. So he's off the ballot. I think maybe they're more likely to do that going forward.
I can tell that my politics have changed themselves around since 2016, because in 2016, I would have cared at least enough to write several blog posts about this. And now, you guys might as well be talking about sports right now.
Right.
We are talking about sports.
I'm responding to a video that somebody sent me and said, this is an example of something being mischaracterized. And that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm sure if they keep on eating gluten-free and avoiding vaccines, they'll do a better job next time.
Are there any IMs about my outfit yet?